بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. So today's topic is about key ingredients or factors leading to a successful marriage. What is a successful marriage? That's the question. The question that I asked the sisters earlier, and in which they had given a response through Menti, the question that I asked them was, what is the most important thing for your happiness in terms of this dunya? As far as this dunya is concerned, what is the number one thing that will make you happy? And the overwhelming response I got is, what was that? Yeah, I will ask the brothers as well later. The overwhelming response I got was what? Family, a husband, loving a husband, having a lovely family, pious kids. Most of the things that they have written have to do with having a family. Now my question is, why is it not being prioritized? Sisters, why? I want you guys to ask this question to yourself. Why is family not being prioritized? The answer that the sisters gave is a very natural answer. It's an answer that every single woman wants in their life. That is their number one objective in life, is to create a family. A woman has been created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to nurture, to create, to procreate a family. This is the function of a woman, and this is what is her ultimate happiness. My question is, sisters, because we have an epidemic on top of this pandemic. And that epidemic is, we have a whole bunch of sisters who are not married, hence who are not happy. And so why is this not being prioritized? Because they are being told to do what? To give priority to their Ph.D, to give priority to their master's degree, to give a priority to build a career, to have a career, to have a job. But as you can see, my brothers, that your own sisters downstairs said that her number one priority in life is what? Education. Huh? Education. No. It's to have a family, not education. It's to have a family. This is why I conducted this survey prior to this, so we can have the results, not coming from me speaking from a vacuum, but coming to you with raw and hard data. That the overwhelming majority of the sisters were saying to have a family, to have kids, to have a husband, to have a good husband, to have a lovely family. These are all the responses. So why is this not being prioritized by the sisters? Why is this not being prioritized by their fathers? Why is this not being prioritized by their male relatives in the family? Because unfortunately, brothers, we men are not living up to our responsibility. That's why. Who is telling the woman, the daughter, the wife, the sister, who is telling her to prioritize an education and to get a job? Who? The father, the husband. Those people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them qawwama. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. Men, they have a leadership over women. They are in charge of the woman. Allah didn't say the husband. Allah said men. And there was an interesting research that was done in terms of why fathers tell their daughters to go get an education so that way they can get a good job. Because ultimately, what is the purpose of getting an education? Is so you can get training for a particular field so you can have a job. That's the ultimate reason. Now, whose responsibility is to provide? Is the man. His respect is directly proportional to his provision. The minute he stops providing or he provides less than what he should be providing, that is how much his respect and his honor will be going down in the family. As an Islamic adjudicator and judge for the Islamic Council of Europe, I can tell you the number one reasons. I've taken more than 300 cases just in 1 year here of sisters coming seeking khula. That's why I said in the beginning, it's an epidemic we are facing. The issue of families. And that's just me taking 350 cases, and we have other judges who are taking an equal amount. And what is the number one reason the woman is coming to us seeking a khula? Is because the number one reason is lack of financial maintenance. Why? Because the person, the husband, he feels as if he is a man not providing for his wife, for his children. And so what does he do? He gives his qawwama, he gives his authority, his respect to the state, the welfare system. He loses that. And so what does she do? She now depends, and she is humiliated, and she is dehumanized through the welfare system. And she says, if I'm being dehumanized, then why do I need this person in my life anyway? Why do I need this man who comes and goes as he pleases? He satisfies himself. What do I get in return? Nothing. What is his replacement? It is the social services and the welfare system and the universal credit. That is the alternative. That is his replacement. Why does she need you? Where's your qawwama? Where's your manhood? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He describes a man being in charge over or having leadership over his family. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, بِمَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بَعْضَهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ وَبِمَا أَنفَقُوا مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ. Number one reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that men are qawwam over their female is because they must give security. What type of security? Emotional security and financial security. So when a woman does not have, when the father tells his daughter to go and get married, to go and get an education, and to go and get a Ph.D. and be a doctor, what he's actually doing is selfish. Because in the back of his mind, he's saying, as I am getting older, I do not want to provide for you anymore. I need you to go ahead and be independent and get your own wealth. When the husband says to his wife, let's do a 50-50 in terms of the house expenses, what he is saying that I will become a hermaphrodite. Is that what you guys call it? A person who is neither a man nor a woman. Yeah? Now, a man and a woman is not only in terms of physical, but a hermaphrodite is someone who can be described in terms of his characteristics as well. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ, he cursed the man who resembles a woman and a woman who, وَالْمَرْأَةُ الْمُتَرَجِّلَةُ, a woman who resembles and acts like a man. It doesn't mean that she only dresses in a pantsuit, but it also means the way she acts. She goes early in the morning, she comes back late at night, she provides. Now, I understand, sisters, that there are some exceptional cases in which there is no male figurehead, or if there is, he may be disabled and unable to provide. Those are exceptional cases. Yeah? I am talking about what is the norm nowadays. And the norm nowadays is that a man, he is giving up his manhood to his woman. And so when she comes home, like a case I had yesterday, where the man is telling his wife, he's a businessman, she's a GP, and he's telling her, you need to also go ahead and contribute. What is he doing? Yeah? He's saying that I no longer deserve that respect that I unequivocally have been given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through this verse, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. That men, they are leaders of the house. But nowadays we have what I mentioned last year, if you all remember, the dangers of feminism. And so we have feminist women who think they don't need a man, who think they can be a man, who think they can compete with a man, who think they are just like men. And we know both physically and emotionally and psychologically that can never be the case. However, we men have made that the case. We have turned our righteous woman, our righteous Muslim woman into, or pushed them towards feminism. Because unfortunately, they are being given the illusion that feminism is the answer. But we know feminism is not the answer. The answer is in the Quran and the Sunnah, but the problem is with our men not acting upon that and not taking charge. And we also have feminist men. Who are these feminist men? Feminist men are these beta males, these weak, unreliable men who cannot take charge. They give charge to their woman. And they say, anything you do, you go ahead. No, brothers. The sisters, by nature, they have been built they have been built as what? As what? Hunters? No. They have been built, they have been created weak, but their strength is in that weakness. A lot of times we think crookedness is ugly, but sometimes crookedness is beautiful. The eyebrow is crooked, and that's where the beauty is. A woman is created from a crooked rib, and that's where her beauty is. The fact that she is not rational and thinks, and she does not think logical, that is where her beauty is. Imagine if a woman comes to you and talks like a man. What would you do? You would become afraid. You say, what's happening? Because what do I mean about being rational and logical? For men, 1 + 1 is 2. For women, 1 + 1 sometimes is 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 5. And it is whatever she wants it to be, given the circumstances. But imagine if a woman comes to you and she is in a very logical, rational state, and she's debating with you, you feel put off by that. Because a woman naturally is supposed to be having the qualities of a feminine. A woman, not a man. So when she confronts you, when your wife confronts you like a man, it is very natural for you, for that animalistic behavior to come out of you. And so you confront her back. But the minute she humbles herself, you feel guilty and you feel bad about your own self. That I'm not a man for being so aggressive. Look at how weak she is, and look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me, and I'm not, in terms of protection, and I'm not discharging that. So sometimes when we say weak, no, it's not necessarily bad. Weakness of a woman is her strength. When the husband is upset and she puts her head down in humbleness towards him, what happens to his heart and what happens to him? He cools down completely. Once she has that back and forth, what happens? He is a lion, he sees her as another male lion coming to challenge his authority. What ends up happening? If you look at a male, anytime he is taking over another pride, what do the females do? Yeah, what do the males do? They go and confront. When they are defeated, the new male lion comes and all the females submit. Even though he comes and he kills all of their children, they completely submit. So if you want to have this leadership role in your family, as a father, as a husband, as a brother, you provide that security. Provide that security in terms of financial. Don't ever make your wife or your daughters to be financially independent. It is your responsibility. Whatever money that they inherit, that is purely theirs. You have no right. And the minute you ask for any type of monetary financial contribution, or the minute you stop providing as a man should be, because if you look at the traditional roles, the traditional society, the Muslim, the family-centric society, a woman was always taken care of. If her husband died, she was taken care of by her sons. If no sons, she was taken care of by her uncles, her father, her brothers. She would go ahead and immediately remarry in order for her to seek that financial security. Nowadays, why aren't men desirable? I'm talking about billionaires, millionaires. I'm talking about people who have good looks. Look at the celebrities, the male celebrities. Almost every single one of them is divorced. And they have been through several marriages. Why? Because they have been replaced. We men have been replaced. Yes. Women no longer need us. They don't. You look at Jeff Bezos, you look at Bill Gates, you look at the richest people. Also, they're with them for a short period of time, they take half their money and that's it. They don't need them anymore. Why? Because we are now living in a society in which our role as men has been replaced. By what? By the corporate and the state. The state is what is offering what? Social security, financial security. The state is offering physical security. A man beats up his wife. Who does she call? Huh? Who does she call? The police. Who are the police? Mainly men. You don't see a battalion of women coming to rescue the wife. Who are in charge in the top? It's men. So what she is doing is that she is actually replacing you. Why do you think she is doing that? Because you as a husband, as a father, are not providing that emotional and that financial security. And I keep on mentioning emotional security. What do I mean? What I mean is the second part of what a wife needs, and that is love. When you don't love your wife, there are many men out there that will go ahead and love your wife. And unfortunately, the society that we're living in is such a corrupt society. And when I say society, I don't mean the kuffar. I also mean the Muslims as well. It's such a corrupt society that you have one compliment that a stranger gives to our woman folk because of the way maybe she is dressed or the way she looks or her hijab, and that's it. Now, why do you think that is? Ustaz Suhail, he mentioned with regards to girls, young girls who are being raised in single parent, mainly mother households where the father is not absent. Yeah, again, we're not talking about those fathers who have died or something like that. We're talking about unnatural cases in which the father refuses to be a father. And so what happens is she looks up to who? She is looking up to a male figure. And that male figure most likely is going to be a pimp. Someone who is going to take advantage of her. Do you think that pimp is going to act in her best interest? No. So you as a father, you as a husband have failed when it comes to providing emotional support. But don't worry. There are many men out there who will. But you must worry because those men are not going to do it in your best interest. Remember these two things. When I was preparing for this lecture, I was looking at all the articles that were being written. And subhanAllah, I actually wrote an article on this and it's published on our website. I had completely forgot about it. I just 10 minutes ago, before Salah, I remembered I had actually written, and the title is The 3 Keys to a Successful Marriage. So I was looking at all of the things that academics and other researchers have written with regards to what brings about a successful marriage, right? And I said, some of them are very superficial. Let me go to the core of it. Let me look at what Allah has said a man must do in order to maintain and to preserve his family, and what a woman must do in order to preserve the family. Okay? What a man must do. So two things. Number one, offering financial security, and number two, giving emotional security, giving that love, giving that mawadda that we know in the verse of the Quran, very famous, Surah Al-Rum, chapter 30, verse 21, that we hear and we recite, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. This aspect of mawadda and rahmah, this love, is something, whether you are Muslim or non-Muslim, we all have a need for that. And if it is not, a relationship is not providing that love, you're going to acquire it somewhere else. Whether halal or haram, take your pick. Whether halal or haram. Whether it's a man or a woman. And you might say, well, I am too old right now. I've been married for 20 years. Yeah. Who says you cannot love? The Prophet ﷺ was 60 years old, and he was still. The first thing the Prophet ﷺ did when he came to the house was what? One of the students of Aisha radiallahu anha, she asked, what is the first thing the Prophet ﷺ did when he entered the house? Who knows? Anyone? Huh? What do you mean kiss? Why are you guys thinking about kissing? Is that the first thing you do? Huh? The first thing you do is you, mashallah, kiss your wife? Now why are you going to reflect that on the Prophet ﷺ? Aisha radiallahu anha says that the first thing the Prophet ﷺ did was his cleaning his teeth. Meaning, as he is entering, he is brushing his teeth. What does that mean though? Huh? Yeah, we got some very smart people here, mashallah. Because Aisha radiallahu anha, she's our mother. She's the mother of the believers. And yet she has a lot of haya. This was an indication that the first thing that the Prophet ﷺ did was to kiss his wife. Yeah, so some of you brothers, mashallah, are practicing the sunnah very good. So you're telling me that you are too old for this? No. It doesn't have to be that. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, what was the first thing that he used to do right before entering the house? He used to apply perfume. So you don't want to kiss your wife? Go ahead, apply perfume. Yani, what is it that will basically attract you to your wife? Because Aisha, she's young. She's still in her prime age. She's someone who is very playful from amongst all of his wives with the Prophet ﷺ. And so, the Prophet ﷺ, he knows her love language. And that is to be this way with her. With other of his wives, he did other types of acts of love and expression of love with them. So maybe with your spouse, maybe this is not. Maybe it is to say Assalamu alaikum, and we fail to even say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We fail to even ask, how was your day? I lived in a country, please don't ask me which country. I lived in a country in which, as the husband is leaving, the wife is escorting him out of the house through the door, kisses his hand, and wishes him the best of day. As he's coming back, he sits on the chair, she removes his shoes and removes the socks and kisses his hand.
Which country?
Yeah, that's why I'm not going to say. Yeah? Yeah. Huh?
Long time ago.
No, I just returned back. I lived there for 8 years. I just returned back 3 months ago. Yeah. Yeah, because those men, they deserve that type of... Why? Because how are they with their woman? You didn't ask that. Yeah? You didn't ask about that. And their women have no problem if... Yani, they do a little bit, but in general with polygamy and all of that. Because they are able to go ahead and give them that emotional security. Through their akhlaq, through their way of communicating. One brother, he came to the council, him and his wife arguing, and he said, Sheikh, I cannot understand my wife because she does not listen to me. I want you guys to really pay attention to the exact words I am saying and see if you can pick an anomaly on this. He says, I cannot understand my wife because she does not listen to me. What does that mean? Huh? Yeah, very good. Yeah, we got a smart guy here. Good. He says, I cannot understand because she does not listen to me. No, brother. Because I said, what do you mean? He says, I said, don't you mean that you need to listen to her in order for you to understand her, not the other way around? Your wife may be communicating with you, brothers, but you are unable to listen. And the sisters, they also have a problem, and that is their way of communication is not getting across to their husbands. So it is like he is speaking one language and she is speaking completely different language. And so what needs to be done is the language or the communication needs to be at the same frequency and the same level. And this is, so I already mentioned the number one reason for khula, the number one reason for marital advice and disputes, the number one reason is communication. That is the number one reason. The inability for us to empathetically communicate with our spouses. What do I mean to have empathy with our spouses? Okay. Yeah? Empathetic communication. It is for you. If I was to ask actually before this, what is your definition of communication? And this is a question I ask every single person, and no one has yet to respond to me. What is your definition of communication? Brothers, quickly, we only have 5 minutes. Huh? Yeah? Everyone says it is to listen, to understand, to sympathize, to do what I say, right? And not a single person says it is to listen and to speak, because that is communication. It is to speak and then also listen. Let's look at the communication of the Prophet ﷺ with his wives. Once Maria, some say she was the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, others say she was not. She came to visit the Prophet ﷺ in the house of Hafsa binti Umar. You know who is Hafsa? Binti Umar. She is the daughter of Umar. Hafsa is not in the house. So she comes and she is sitting with the Prophet ﷺ in Hafsa's house. Hafsa comes back from outside very early than normal. Why? Because this is her day with the Prophet ﷺ. And she catches the Prophet ﷺ having a conversation with Maria. What do you think she does? Huh? She throws a fit. Look, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, they have a special relationship. If any one of us ever talked to the Prophet the way the wives talk to the Prophet ﷺ, we would become disbelievers. Okay? If any of the men acted with the Prophet the way his wives acted with the Prophet, they become disbelievers or said some of the things. But the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, they have a special relationship that no one else can have. Because at the end of the day, they are husband and wife. So what do you think? She started saying things to the Prophet ﷺ, and what do you think the Prophet ﷺ is doing? He is understanding where she is coming from, and he's trying to calm her down. And he is agreeing to all of her conditions. Okay, you must not, and she's trying to calm down, but she's placing all kinds of conditions. You make sure you never go to her house. You can never have relation with her. And he's like, okay, and that's when Surah Al-Tahrim comes. The chapter in the Quran in which the Prophet ﷺ made his wife haram for him because of the demand of his other wife. Okay? But what does that show you? Another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in which he told Aisha, he said, "Oh Aisha, I know when you are upset with me and when you are pleased with me. I'm showing you the empathy of the Prophet ﷺ." She said, "How?" He said, "I know when you are pleased with me, you say, 'No, I swear by the Lord of Muhammad.' But when you are not happy with me, you say, 'No, I swear by the Lord of Ibrahim.'" You see how the Prophet ﷺ picked up on this? Your wife is spending the whole day, the whole week, the whole month sad, and you don't even pick up on it. And then you wonder why she exploded all of a sudden. And here the Prophet ﷺ is addressing something, is actually recognizing and acknowledging the feelings of his wife, and when she is sad and when she is upset and when she is happy. Very quickly, due to time. Coming to the husband. What is the number one thing and this is for the sisters, please listen sisters. What is the number one thing every husband wants? Respect. Respect. If you ever disrespect your husband, then that will put a black mark in his heart. You disrespect him again, and you disrespect him again, and you disrespect him again. What do you think that's going to do to his heart? It's going to keep on creating that. And what do you think he's going to start doing? He's going to seek ways of seeking happiness and love through other means, especially since he is allowed more than one. And how do you respect your husband? You respect your husband by listening to him, by providing for his desires? Because this is nafaqah for him. You remember the nafaqah issue? Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the responsibility of provision, financial maintenance upon the man. And in Islam, brothers and sisters, please listen to this. In Islam, a woman can sue her husband and go to the Islamic judge and say, he is not providing for me. And so what happens? And in this country, a woman can go to the courts and sue her husband and say, he's not providing for me. And the court will actually garner his wages, where some of his wages can actually go to the wife. Yeah? What about if the woman, the wife, cannot provide for her husband's needs? Do you see how we don't have a system in place in which a man can actually go ahead and demand? This is where some of the problems that we have, the ills in the societies. There was one case I had, and again, I'm not justifying zina at all. There is no justification for zina. There is no justification. One man, he committed zina with 250 women. 250 women. There's another case I had. 7 years they have been married, and not once they've had natural sex. Not once they've had natural intimacy. What do you think the guy is going to do? What do you think is going to happen to the person? And I say this to every person. When the woman, Allah has forbidden zina. The society has forbidden polygamy. And if the woman forbids herself to the husband by using intimacy as a weapon to get at her husband, this man is going to explode. Allah has forbidden zina, so he cannot do zina. The society, the family has forbidden upon him what? Polygamy. He comes into the masjid, you see this guy? He's married to 2 and he can't even provide. And the reality is, maybe he can. How do you know? And now the wife uses intimacy and relations and fulfilling his desires as a weapon. Just like how men use financial maintenance as a weapon against the wife. She uses this. What do you think is going to happen? So, whatever he says, you listen to him. As long as he is not making you commit a sin. Whenever he looks at you, he is pleased. What does that mean? That means when he comes to the house, be like that woman in that country that I was mentioning, where you do not smell like, what you have just cooked. Wallahi, it is difficult. But the topic is about a successful marriage. The topic is how to have that spark in your life so that way it does not become redundant. That way you guard the gaze of your husband when he goes outside of the house. Because when he goes outside the house, he sees on his way he sees the beautiful billboards inviting him and giving him this illusion that this is how a woman is, this is what he can have. When he goes into the office, his secretary comes and he says, "Mister, what do you want? Ali, you want nice coffee?" She's dressed nice, beautiful, lipstick, makeup, dress. And then he's thinking naturally to himself, "Wallahi, I don't have this in my house. When was the last time my wife asked me for coffee? When was the last time? You want food? Go ahead." Wallahi, I had a case in which they were fighting for 1 hour over a frozen paratha and a fresh paratha. Well, I lost it. I lost it in that session. I said, what is it with you guys? And they have kids. He wants fresh. She says, I can't do fresh. And he has cheated on her. So you either give him the fresh paratha or he's going to do it. I'm not justifying that, but this is what the reality is. Yeah? And so I leave you all, sisters, with this hadith in order for you to always have it in front of you every single day. And that is the Prophet ﷺ, he says, any woman who prays her 5 prayers and she fasts the month of Ramadan and she protects her chastity and she obeys her husband, she will be told to enter Jannah through any of the gates. Now, in order for us men to have this privilege, we must do what the only man that was given this glad tiding did. And that is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. We must reach that level of being a Siddiq with Allah and His Prophet and the religion. Yani look at what Abu Bakr did in order for him to reach that privilege of entering Jannah through any of the gates. But all of our women folk, they have this if they choose to. And it's very simple. You pray your 5 times. You fast the month of Ramadan. You guard your chastity. فَالصَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ حَافِظَاتٌ لِلْغَيْبِ بِمَا حَفِظَ اللَّهِ. You guard your chastity. And number 4, which should be actually easy, than waking up for Fajr, for example, or fasting 21 hours of Ramadan. Imagine fasting for 21 hours. For me, that is very difficult. "22 hours. Yet it seems like all of that is easy for a woman except obeying her husband. And so what does that tell you? That tells you a couple of things. Number 1, maybe the husband is not doing his husbandly duties. Brothers, you look very attractive to your wife when you give her these 2 things. Anything I am saying, confirm it with your wives. And she will tell you 100%. Because when I conduct sessions at the Islamic Council of Europe, I am describing the wife to the husband after they mention a few things, and the wife is crying. Why? Because she says, I wish my husband knew these things about me. Because as complicated as they may appear to be, in fact, women can be very simple. And that is, you give them these 2 things, financial security and emotional security, and you will be the happiest husband, inshallah. And sisters, give that love and give that respect that your husband deserves, and you will be the happiest wife, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect all of our households. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring about mercy, to bring about mercy and love between ourselves, between our spouses and ourselves. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect them from every evil and from every evil and from every shar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us tawfiq. Just very briefly, the Islamic Council of Europe, we are providing all kinds of much needed services, from financial disputes to marital disputes to counseling and so many more, by the permission and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our work is so much in need that we are even expanding throughout Europe, in fact even to America as well, because at-tahakum ila shar'illah, arbitration and adjudicating your cases and seeking that Islamic counseling is so much missing in our life, and there's so much demand for it. We ask all of you to make dua for us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless the community, and we ask all of you to pray for our success. Sheikh Fuad, is there any? Sheikh Fuad, mashallah, he's one of our senior advisors when it comes to Islamic financial disputes. He's an expert in that field. So when we have inheritance issues, when we have business disputes, when we have business certification, whether they are halal or not, when we have even issues of Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, these issues come to Sheikh Fuad. Would you like to add anything else? طيب جزاكم الله خيرا سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.